Welcome to the May 15th, 2018 regular meeting of the Lake Forest City Council. Can we cut the video? And welcome to the Facebook Live people as well. Tonight we begin with the invocation, and the invocation will be led by Pastor Araceli Godoy from the Faro Church here in Lake Forest. Welcome.
Lord, we just come before you today, and we just thank you for another day to serve your people. We pray over today's meeting. May we be quick to listen to each other. We thank you for the different gifts and talents that everyone presents today, and may we be able to work as one. We just pray for our leaders. May they continue to lead the city with your knowledge and your wisdom and your integrity, and may we continue to help those in need in our city. And we just thank you, and in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Basil.
Everyone, please rise.
And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a drum roll, Jonathan? Can I get a drum roll? So we now have the closed session report from the city attorney.
Mr. Mayor, for the second meeting in a row, we do have a report. The council gave direction, a unanimous direction based on those in attendance in closed session, to initiate litigation based on a violation of the zoning ordinance. Information about the parties that litigation will be disclosed if and when that litigation is filed at a subsequent time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. A report from the student liaison. Here she is. Sarah Dahlstrom, welcome.
Let's go Chargers.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Sarah Dahlstrom here reporting to you on the past and upcoming events at El Toro High School. In sports news, congratulations to our boys varsity baseball team for winning league last Thursday. The final score was El Toro 2 and Capo Valley 1. Congrats to our South Coast League champs. CIF D1 playoffs start this Friday. Good luck to our varsity baseball boys. Also, congratulations to Savannah Stalker, our first junior swim and diver to break through with a CIF D1 diving title. In ASB news, it's pep rally time. This Friday is our final pep rally, the finale rally. The theme is decades, where the freshmen will represent the 50s, the sophomores the 70s, the juniors the 90s, and the seniors will represent the future. Our senior section will be decked out in college-themed decorations in celebration of graduation being less than a month away. In ASB news, prom is just around the corner. On June 2nd, our prom will take place at the Mission San Juan Capistrano. Ticket sales have finally started. The countdown to prom is on. And finally, mark your calendars. Senior commencement is fast approaching. Our seniors' final day of school and graduation ceremony will take place June 14th. That's all I have for tonight. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great evening. And as always, go Chargers.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
We have presentations tonight. Can I have a motion? Okay, please vote. And the first proclamation for which there isn't a presentation is to designate May through October as Drowning Prevention Awareness Season, and that's a very important topic for obvious reasons. Our presentation is designating the week of May 20th to 26th as National Public Works Week. Public Works, as you know, are responsible for the streets, the landscape, just about everything. They're the second largest part of our budget, second highest part of our budget.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. As we're making our way up front, I'd like to introduce some of our crews. Some of the council members are newer here, so I wanted to bring in some of the members from PV Maintenance to receive the proclamation. So if Justin and Franti and Herbert, you guys come on up. But Justin's our project manager and the field supervisor for the city. You guys will see them running in and out of traffic. They're replacing all the potholes, fixing the down signs. You've got trees that fall down in the middle of the night. They're responding to emergencies, traffic control, all the things that goes on in the street. These guys are responsible for 24 hours a day. So we want to just recognize them for the hard work that they do that people don't really recognize all the time.
Sure, well, thank you very much. As someone who reports potholes all the time, I really appreciate it. Item number 7 on our list is the introduction of a new employee, Louis Lacasella, who is going to be our new assistant to the city manager, replacing Carlo Tamaino. Where's Carlo? Oh, there he is, Carlo, who did a marvelous job. We can't thank you enough. So many things you did during that time and raised the quality of the work being done. So you have a very, very, very hard role to fill, replacing Carlo. And do you want to come up and tell us a little something about your background and how you intend to do better than Carlo, who did a marvelous job?
Mayor and members of the council, part of my pitch when I hired Louis was I assured him he wouldn't have to speak his very first meeting.
Oh, well, you should have told me. All right, we'll let you off the hook for tonight. But again, thank you so much to Carlo, who did a marvelous job supporting the city manager. Item number 8, presentation by De Novo Planning Group on the status of the General Plan 2040 update. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Ben Ritchie and Amanda Tropiano from De Novo Planning Group. De Novo is the lead consultant for the preparation of the Lake Forest 2040 General Plan update. This evening, Ben and Amanda will provide an update of the planning effort to date, schedule for the project in the future, and upcoming workshops and milestones.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm Ben Ritchie. I'm a principal with De Novo Planning Group, and we have just a very brief check-in and an update, and happy to answer any of your questions about the work that's underway and where we're headed for the next year or two. So we'll just do a quick introduction to the General Plan project team, a very brief overview of the process that goes into updating the General Plan. We don't just show up, write it overnight, and then move on. It's a 2-year process with a lot of community engagement and outreach. We'll provide you with a quick summary of the work we've completed to date, talk about the key components of our public outreach that are upcoming, and the next steps in our process. So as I mentioned, I'm a principal with the firm. I'm serving as the co-project manager. I'm joined this evening by Amanda, who's also a principal planner with De Novo, and she'll be addressing you here in just a second. So the two of us are hands-on for all aspects of this project. So you'll see a lot of our faces at public meetings, public hearings, and we'll be the primary authors of all of the various documents and stages, the steps that come before you as part of this process. We have an excellent team of sub-consultants and industry experts that are a part of our team. So we serve as the prime, we facilitate the public outreach, we do a lot of the report writing, but we're also joined by SWA, who is an urban design firm. We're joined by Kittleson and Associates. They're traffic and transportation engineers. EPS, they're land use economists and fiscal financial experts. Cogstone, cultural resource experts. West Yost Associates, they deal with infrastructure and utilities. And also J.C. Brennan and Associates, they're noise and acoustical professional engineers. So I realize that the council's been briefed on the general plan over the last year and a half or two, so I definitely will not belabor these overview points on what it is and why it's important, but for the benefit of our audience and those watching at home, what is a general plan? Because for most of us that don't deal with city government or aren't in the planning trade, it's not necessarily a document we deal with on a regular basis. The state of California requires that every city and county in the state have an adopted general plan. There are 7 mandatory elements that must go into the general plan, but individual cities and counties have a tremendous amount of leeway and authority in terms of additional elements and how they choose to address each of the nuanced topics which are required by the state. It's a comprehensive blueprint that looks forward approximately 20 years, and it really helps guide and shape the future of the city. It provides a policy framework that helps the council, the planning commission, your various boards and committees and commissions make decisions about everything from infrastructure investment, project review, entitlements, things of that nature. It builds upon community goals and priorities. So while the state mandates the framework that needs to go into a general plan, this is very much going to be a customized process and a customized project meant to meet the needs of the city of Lake Forest. The city's existing general plan was adopted in 1994, so you're well due for an update. There's been numerous changes in state law. The city's grown. You've annexed additional areas, and it was a timely opportunity to check back in within the community and make sure that we have a solid, cohesive vision moving forward. Zoning is usually a term that folks are more familiar with. The zoning code and the zoning map help implement the general plan, so they need to be internally consistent with one another, but the zoning provides much greater specificity than the general plan does. And we started this process in January, and it'll take approximately 2 years. So we're well underway, and Amanda's going to talk to you a little bit about the steps that are forthcoming and what we've completed so far. So I will hand this over.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having us here today. Again, my name is Amanda Tropiano, and I am a principal planner with De Novo Planning Group. So again, one of the topics that you're familiar with is the three-phased approach to updating the general plan here in Lake Forest. The approach is organized around 3 phases. The first is to envision Lake Forest, where we'll be working with the community to understand their vision and values for the future of your community. We'll be reviewing your existing plans and programs and assessing their relevance to the general plan update and identifying opportunities and constraints. The second phase is to develop the land use alternatives and policy options. So that's where we start to identify areas of the community that the residents have told us they'd like to see preserved and protected, areas where there might be opportunities for consideration to land use change or policy change that might help better reflect the vision of your community, and those will be brought forward to you for your consideration. And then the third phase is organized around the environmental review, or CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, where we start to look at the potential impacts that are a result of those land use or policy changes. As Ben had mentioned, the entire process takes about 2 years. We are well underway under the first phase. The second phase is expected to begin in fall of this year, with the third phase beginning in early next year. You should note that phases 2 and 3 run concurrent so that the impacts are continually assessed against the options that we're considering, so that by the time we come to the end of the process, we've got a really streamlined approach and we've made good decisions along the way so that we aren't left with a lot of impacts at the end that haven't been considered. So as Ben had mentioned, we are well underway. While we started the project in early this year, we have a long list of items that we have been working diligently on with staff and their continual support over the past 5 months. So just to provide you a highlight list of what we've been working on, we've developed a project style guide, including the project logo that you've seen on a lot of the material, including the presentation tonight. We have a live and active project website at lakeforest.generalplan.org. That site has all of this available information, plus more, things like a project fact sheet, a survey that the community can take starting right now. So that website is really the primary tool that people can go on to and engage in the deliverables for this project. We have a newsletter and project fact sheet available on the site. We also were able to attend your Bunny Blast event a few months ago, which was really a lot of fun, and connect with the community. Our first question for community members coming to learn about the general plan was to ask them what they love about Lake Forest. So you can see in the back of the room, there are several boards there, and those are the boards that we had at Bunny Blast that your community members wrote down on Post-it notes the things that they loved most about your community. And so we encourage you to take a look at those later this evening during the break or after the meeting, and also for your audience members to go and add their own ideas to that board. We have Post-its and markers in the back for them to contribute. We've also developed a base map to conduct the analysis of different land uses and different components that have to do with the mapping and different mobility sections of your community. We've been gathering and reviewing all of your relevant background documents. Your staff has been incredible in providing us and assembling the sheer quantity of material that goes into the review and development of a comprehensive plan like this. It's really quite a lot of material that is considered, and so we've been working diligently on that. We've also been out in your community conducting some analysis. So we have collected existing noise levels so we can understand what the existing noise environment is and be able to quantify potential impacts. We've also collected existing traffic counts around your community. So as part of this process, you were able to collect existing traffic counts at intersections and roadway segments throughout the community that will be a benefit not only for this project, but also setting the stage and be able to use as a baseline analysis for future projects. We've also prepared an infrastructure background report and a detailed project schedule, which is really the foundation as we're talking through the next steps of this project. This is an illustration of the booth that we had set up at Bunny Blast. I think for those of you that were in attendance, and Mayor, I know you were there, we had a long line at our booth, quite honestly. We had people excited to give us their feedback about what they loved about the community, spin the wheel for some prizes, and we were able to have some really great conversations with your community members. We'll be continually hosting other booths like this at your upcoming summer events as well. So an underlying foundation of the entire project is really making sure that we're connecting with your community in a meaningful way. As part of that program, we've identified over 42 individual opportunities for the project team to connect with your community. Participation opportunities include 3 visioning workshops, which I will talk about a little bit more. The first one is scheduled for tomorrow night. We'll also be conducting one-on-one meetings with each of the council members so we can start to understand how those issues and priorities dovetail with the topics covered in the general plan. We have an opportunity to interview key stakeholders throughout your community, like key property owners, business owners, and others involved in developing the future of Lake Forest. We'll be hosting a General Plan Advisory Committee, or a GPAC. We have a series of 10 meetings with them, and I'll speak about that just a little bit more in a minute. We've scheduled 2 community open houses at critical points throughout the process. First is we're developing the land use alternatives to receive feedback on those, and then a little bit later as we unveil the draft general plan. We'll have a series of workshops and study sessions with you and with Planning Commission. As part of the environmental review process, we have a scoping meeting, and of course at the end, public hearings for your review and consideration of the project. Again, the website is a fantastic tool. We really encourage you to check it out and also to share it with your friends and family, lakeforest.generalplan.org. We'll be out making community presentations as needed. If anyone has a member of the community or a group that would like to have a personal presentation on this project from anyone on the project team, we're willing and able to make that. We'll be developing a series of newsletters, conducting the interviews, and performing online surveys, providing email updates, and continually working with your PIO office on the social media posts related to the project. We've already had a great turnout from that, posting to Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, and Instagram in regards to tomorrow night's visioning workshop. So we have developed a series of 3 visioning workshops to kick off the conversation with the community. These workshops are really intended to inform the community about the general plan update, start to hear their ideas for the vision of the future of Lake Forest. Each workshop focuses on a different topic, so I want to emphasize that they are 3 separate topics. Members of your community can come to 1, 2, or 3 of them. They're not duplicative, so if you've come to one, you should certainly come to another. The first one is scheduled tomorrow, May 16th, right here at City Hall. It starts at 6:30 and will last approximately 90 minutes, concluding at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow night's presentation will focus on establishing the vision and values for the community. We'll be making a brief presentation and then also facilitating several activities with those participants. The second workshop is scheduled for Wednesday, June 13th. The topic on that evening will be transportation and mobility. And the third workshop is scheduled for Wednesday, July 11th, and we'll be looking at land use and urban design. Another topic I wanted to spend just a moment briefing you on is the General Plan Advisory Committee. I'm going to provide some initial insights tonight, but I wanted to let you know that we'll be coming back to you in a few months in the summer to have a further discussion, but I wanted to bring this to your attention because I know it's a topic that's important to you. The General Plan Advisory Committee will be comprised of community representatives that are really intended to serve as liaisons and ambassadors between the community and the project team. They'll be communicating the vision and values of the community. They'll be gathering input and sharing it with the team. They'll be also reviewing draft documents and milestones and providing feedback on the material we prepare. They'll be assisting in some of the key components of the project, developing the land use alternatives, goals, policies, and actions. All of the meetings will be public, but the GPAC members will lead the discussion and there'll be structured opportunities for public comment. I wanted to really emphasize that this group is advisory, so they will be making recommendations and advice to Planning Commission and Council for your consideration. So there's a few opportunities for you and for the community to get involved right away. Again, there is a survey available and posted onto lakeforest.generalplan.org. We encourage everyone to go online and take that survey and provide their feedback. The first visioning workshop, again, is tomorrow, Wednesday, May 16th, right here at City Hall at 6:30. And we are always available to answer any questions you have. So both Ben and I are here, Gail and the rest of the project team, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Yeah, Councilman Robinson.
Be fairly brief. First, for the city manager, how are we developing the GPAC? What's constituting the membership?
We're actually going to bring back an item to the council to suggest how that happens. So we don't have that yet.
Great. Okay. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing something. So I think, you were mentioning, are there some groups that could be potentially spoken to regarding what's going on with the general plan update? I think there'd be some value in having presentations to our largest HOAs. So just, I don't know what number that would be, but definitely whatever you figure, but the largest as far as residents that they represent. I also think that, one of our primary responsibilities as a city is public safety. It doesn't necessarily hit land use or anything like that, but I think that collecting some information potentially at either a neighborhood watch meeting or a national night out could provide some value. Again, we're not going to be making any zoning changes that involve public safety, most likely, but there definitely could be some comments that have some input here. I also think that potentially the 4th of July, we've got a lot of residents who are out, and it could be a way of reaching quite a few people that particular day. So I know that's a holiday, I recognize that, but I just wanted to throw out that idea as well. And just thank you for what you're doing so far. It's meeting my expectations, and I really appreciate the work that you guys are doing.
Great, and thank you for your feedback.
Any other comments? Okay, Jonathan, this will be broadcast, all the visioning workshops will be broadcast live on Facebook, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks. Look forward to tomorrow night.
Great, thank you.
All right, next up is the public comment section of the agenda. As a reminder, if you would like to participate, please fill out a blue speaker card, turn it into the city clerk, and your name will be called. Before we do that, we had a leftover from the budget workshop. The person who asked a question and we couldn't deal with it because it wasn't a budget question, I said it would be the first one we would do today. Do we have that one?
Yes, it's been resubmitted.
Oh, good. Okay.
Axel Maldini, what do we residents of Canada Road for the city need to do for the city of Lake Forest to install 4 stops at the exit and entrance of the complex of Inmol Court? The cars circulate more than 65 miles an hour in an area of 40 miles per hour speed limit. Crossing the street to the other one becomes a very dangerous situation for children, or are you waiting for someone to die getting run over here? Thank you.
Okay, and Sergeant, did you get a chance to speak with the chief about this issue? Okay. I did, after the meeting, I did speak with the chief and ask him to pay more attention to that area and also to put that speed thing, whatever it's called, the measurement, the radar trailer? Okay, the radar trailer. So unfortunately, he's not here tonight, but I will follow up and see what he's done in that regard. I was driving down there the other day, and I saw a lot of tickets on a lot of cars there. So obviously, somebody did something. But yeah, we take it very seriously, and I know what you're talking about because I use Kenyatta Drive myself, and people do speed. So we will get on that. I think the chief has already gotten on that, but we'll have to get the report from him. And did they leave their email address so we could contact them and tell them exactly what's going on?
We can respond to them over Facebook.
Okay, so if they'll instant message us and give us a contact, then we'll let them know exactly what the chief is doing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Back to the city clerk. Do we have any requests to speak?
We do, Your Honor. Mark Murphy, followed by Elizabeth Wallace.
Welcome.
Good evening. I want to talk about a poll that was done for district elections. 5 city council members have changed how you vote for the city council. Currently, Lake Forest voters choose all 5 city council members, either 3 or 2 at a time every 2 years. However, a threat from a lawsuit led the city council to implement what's known as district elections, which changed the vote from 5 council members down to only 1 council member every 4 years within your own district. Fighting the lawsuit could cost the city hundreds of thousands of dollars into the low millions, resulting in district elections anyway if the city lost or settled the lawsuit. However, the city council didn't do one thing. The city council did not bring the issue of district elections to the voters. If the voters decided to keep electing all 5 city council members at large, it's possible the city could still be sued. With this in mind, should the voters be given the choice of keeping our current method of electing all 5 city council members versus the district method of electing only 1 city council member from the voters' district? This poll has been running almost for a week now with 148 people voting and 93% declaring that the voters should decide whether to keep electing all 5 city council members versus moving to voting for only 1 council member in our district, or whether the city council should have made this decision for us. I'm asking that at least 2 council members consider consensus to add an agenda item to the June 5th meeting to discuss and motion to change the approved ballot question, asking voters to approve at-large versus district elections from non-binding to binding, and delay the current ordinance on the district elections past the November 2018 general election to keep our current system in place. The City Council has never had a motion to decide if the voters should make this decision or not. They simply moved forward with the district elections. The Council should at least be on the record if the voters can make their own decision or not. District elections are not a done deal from my understanding, as the deadline to inform the Register of Voters is not until July 5th, 2018. With the above 2 motion suggestions, the City Council would bring the decision back to the voters where it properly belongs. None of the work on district elections is negated or wasted, as this motion is simply for a delay on the implementation date, which is in the City Council's power to do. This decision to either keep at-large or move to district election deserves to be heard by the larger group of Lake Forest voters with the pros and cons. There needs to be a much larger public discussion on this issue if our voting rights are to be altered. At the very least, if the voters decided to keep at-large elections and the city is sued to move to the district elections, an impartial judge should determine if the voters are to be forced to change or not. This could be the last chance before the deadlines to allow the 40,000 plus voters to make this decision instead of just the 5 city council members. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. There is a ballot. There will be a ballot question in November asking people if they want to move to districts or not. So, next.
Elizabeth Wallace, followed by Kang Eng.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Wallace, and I'm a resident of Lake Forest. First, I want to thank city staff for their work preparing the annual budget. I attended the workshop last week, and I was impressed that the city's maintained a balanced budget and is prepared for future expenditures. I'm here tonight to talk about a topic that concerns me. I'm disappointed to see the city's installation of 160 plastic plants beneath 20 live oak trees in the medians along Lake Forest Drive. I understand that the city has tried and failed to grow live plants in these medians, but I respectfully request the city to remove the artificial plants and instead install a light layer of natural mulch under the live oak trees. The mulch will protect and cool the tree roots and also provide a natural aesthetic along Lake Forest Drive. By planting live oak trees, the city is helping return some of the natural habitat that we've lost in our urban areas. But installing plastic plants creates a sterility in our outdoor space. They harm the oak tree roots and degrade in the sun, leaving toxic molecules in the soil forever. The plastic plants look odd and out of place beneath the live oak trees. Lake Forest is a beautiful city. Native vegetation, including oaks and sycamores, provide a healthy environment for all, and I'm grateful for that. But dead, artificial plants are toxic and incongruous with the live oak trees. Please remove the 160 plastic plants from the medians and install a light layer of natural mulch under the oak trees on Lake Forest Drive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We did ask Public Works to reconsider the process, and we'll be getting back to you shortly.
Hey, can I ask, where are those plants? Oh.
They're north of Tribuco on Lake Forest Drive. There's 20 right from the
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
They've actually been there for quite a long time, and it was only recently that someone spotted them. I guess they either put out the wrong plants or put them in the wrong place, but they had been doing it for a while. But we need to reconsider it. We certainly don't want cheap and poisonous out there. So thank you for your comments. Next.
Kang Eng, followed by Bob Stewart.
Welcome.
Thank you. Mayor, council members, my name is Kang Eng, and I'm a resident of Lake Forest. I want to tell you that 4 weeks from now, there is going to be a tournament in Fullerton with 400 players from around the world for an Olympic sport, and it's going to be the top tournament in the United States. This sport is the second most popular sport in the world, is the fastest racket sport in the world, and is widely played by all ages and genders. The sport is badminton. Even though California has historically been a regional hub for badminton in the United States, it is woefully underrepresented in public facilities in southern Orange County in general. With the Lake Forest Sports Park's new gym, we have an opportunity to provide badminton courts and a local program where there's a growing need. I believe we have all the ingredients of success in starting up this program, but need your support. First of all, we have these important ingredients. We have interest. In less than a week, I already have over 100 adults sign up for interest in this program. I believe that if we include their families, we'll have a healthy and consistent attendance if we're to start a badminton program. I also have experience. I'm currently working with the 2 local badminton organizers in Lake Forest. One of them is Bob Gilmore, a former U.S. badminton champion who runs a youth training program in El Toro High School, and Peter Onko, who runs the Saddleback Church Badminton Ministry. With our combined expertise and influence, we will be able to set up, promote, and manage a successful program in Lake Forest. Where I need your help. Right now, I need some time slots at the Lake Forest Sports Park. We would kindly ask that we can get 1 or 2 nights between 5 or 6 p.m. till close. And right now, I understand that other sports have taken up the entire schedule, so I just ask that we can have a share of the evening time. In this gym, we also need to have some lines drawn up, but fortunately, there are already pickleball lines in the gym which share the same overall dimension. We would just need some service lines drawn up And we'd also ask that some additional court lines be drawn up, because what we have learned from our experience is that we need enough courts so that players from all skill levels can attend, and with enough courts, we can also offer classes and potentially offer tournaments. Lastly, we just need a modest investment in equipment like badminton nets, rental rackets, and birdies, so that the staff could be able to help visitors and new players be equipped. And we will gladly advise and work with any city officials on any of the details. With your support, we can bring this great sport to this great city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Scott, is he in touch? I think I put him in touch with you.
Yes, we've spoken, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
And he's correct. What I explained is that right now we have a good problem at the gym in that it's very, very popular, and we have programs there now that mostly basketball, volleyball. We have futsal. There are a couple of basketball leagues. What we need to do is wait for something to sort of wane in terms of attendance and interest before we can bring in something new. So that's what we discussed, and we're get a lot of great ideas from residents, and we're happy to explore that.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a while. It took us 2 years or 3 years to get pickleball courts. It just takes time to work things in. Okay, thank you.
Is that exclusively an indoor sport? I mean, it can be played outdoors too, right?
Yeah, except for the wind. Yeah, it's preferably an indoor sport. Next.
Just real quick. Did this go to the Park and Recs Commission at all?
It has not.
Okay. I think that when a resident comes to us, I think an appropriate direction would be first to go to the Park and Recs Commission. That's why we have them, and that would make sense for them to evaluate an issue like this and then come back to us with a recommendation one way or another. Their job is to try to take some of these things off of our plate so that we can, focus our time, and I think there's a lot of value in that. So.
Sure. Did you want to?
We can certainly do that. I should tell you, we get recommendations every week about events, activities, new programs that people would like to see, and we try to accommodate as many as we can where it makes sense, and sometimes we can and sometimes we can't. But I'd be happy to take this to the commission.
I just think, I know I see their last meeting, and it looked like it went about a little over 3 hours, which is a long one because it was the Neighborhood Parks Improvement Plan. But, a lot of times their meetings will last about 45 minutes or an hour. And I think that they might have the time and the ability, and it's their area of specialty to focus on things like this, and they might be able to provide us with some good direction with respect to, yes, it's full, but maybe they think that we need to balance out, the sports that are being played, or maybe they think what we're doing is adequate, and, again, we're giving them that special responsibility. So I'd be really interested in hearing their thoughts rather than just trying to make a decision ourselves about that. So.
Yeah, I like that idea. Also, lets them be informed that there's, momentum for that sport in the city.
Sure.
It's a good idea.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next.
Bob Stewart, followed by Jim Reichert.
Good evening,
Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm sorry I'm here in my casual attire, but when you had that question, what I love about Lake Forest, I'd like to tell you what I love about Lake Forest. We have a really great thing that maybe people don't know about. It's called the Pet Adoption Center. It's right there by Arc 1. There's a lady named April who is awesome. Unbelievably organized attorney. And I volunteer, and I have 3 grandkids, and I have all kinds of things going on in my life, but it's amongst the best hours that I have in any given week. I even ran into the mayor and his wife and granddaughter a while ago. So again, we might have liberal Democrats, we might have conservative Republicans, we might even have gangs of 5, 3, 2, we might disagree about districts, but when you go up to the Bark Park, none of those dogs care if you voted yes or no on the recall. What those dogs care about is a treat, taking care of business, and some affection. So I encourage people listening, especially on Facebook. I was in Toastmasters, and they always tell you, tell them what you told them, and repeat. So I'm telling you, you need to get involved with the Pet Adoption Center. It's a sanctuary right here in our city, Mr. Mayor. It's near Ridge Route and Muirlands, and there's an awesome lady named April. Her phone number is 949-858-1000. The website is www.adoptorangecounty or ocpets.org. Again, www.adopt.orangecountypets.org. It's an awesome place. They need your money. They need your time. You can come by. They're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, but I encourage all of you and everyone listening to check out this gem. This is one of the things I love about Lake Forest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We just we funded them originally about a year ago, and we just refunded them, I believe, at the last meeting. We just refunded them.
So this is their second year with city support. So, and thank you. Do we get a cool shirt like that if we volunteer?
Costs $20. No, I have one at home. You got to pay.
You get it for free, but don't wash it as much as I have.
Thank you for getting involved.
She charged me $20. How'd that happen?
I'm the mayor. I'm not.
Next.
Jim Reichert?
Hello, everyone. How you doing? I wanted to come to the last meeting to talk about the district thing, but it was too late, and I had to go to bed. So I want to echo what Mr. Murphy said a little bit. I think it's a mistake, a big mistake, to proceed with district elections this November, because this November's districts are going to look different than November 2020's districts, which are going to look different than November 2022's districts after the census takes place. And it just kind of bothers me that one attorney, one person writes you a letter, and you guess caved is maybe not the right word, and said, okay, let's do district elections. And we don't even know if the public wants district elections. So again, I want to echo his recommendation that you have a vote on this in November, asking people yes or no, do you want them or not, and it's not an advisory vote, it's one you'd adhere to. And two, don't have district elections in November. It's premature, they're not the right districts, and you don't even know if the public wants it. So that's my recommendation. I hope you put this back on your agenda, reconsider it, and make it go away till the public has some say-so. Thank you.
Thank you. One correction to what you said, because you missed a meeting, is that the 2018 and the 2020 districts will be the same. They won't change in 2020, but in 2022 they would change. Do we have another speaker?
We do. We have a card that was handed in with Josh Biscay.
Going anonymous tonight, huh?
Yeah, no, very quickly, I would just like to disagree with Murphy and Reichert. I think district elections is absolutely the right thing to do. For number one, in my book, it gives an underdog a shot. In a city where you have people running for council and they're spending $50,000, maybe an underdog candidate with cut up going with 15,000 people gives them a shot to win. And I think the council did a very savvy decision, as opposed to what Reichert and Murphy said, of looking at history, right? If you ignore history, you're doomed to repeat it. So in a cautious, prudent manner, you looked at history and you saw the payouts that the other cities did because of this guy, and you did a decision looking out for the residents, and I really appreciate you doing that.
Okay, thank you. Just to get some feedback from the city attorney, has of all the lawsuits that were conducted, did anybody beat Schenkman? That's the man the attorney's suing or threatening to sue.
Mr. Mayor, Council, there's been no litigation that has gone all the way through the courts successfully against Mr. Schenkman or anybody else for that matter.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments?
No public comments, Your Honor. But Facebook may.
Facebook Live? Great.
Yes, sir. We have three. Nick Wilson, comment to council. Please support the democratic process and take the district elections to the voters.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I think it's been covered.
OD 714, comment to council. Thanks to city staff and OCSD for cleaning up the parking problems on Osterman and Pittsburgh. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. That was a big project and involved code enforcement and the police as well.
And G. Silva, comment to council regarding Cox and its monopoly. When's it going to end? I don't have any other option in my area, and their service is a disaster and overpriced. Please end the Cox monopoly now.
To the city manager, we have a presentation coming up from Cox at my request pretty soon. There have been some issues. I've heard from a lot of residents complaining about the service for Cox. So I felt it was important to bring it, the presentation of the council, find out what Cox is doing and how they're going to be making, changes where the residents will be happy about that. So I thought you'd like to know that.
Okay, and when's that coming up?
2 weeks, correct?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm working with the Cox representative to schedule that meeting. So as soon as her schedule allows, we will make sure that is an item on the agenda.
Yeah, we get complaints about that several times. It is an issue for a lot of people. Thank you for your comment. Anything else? Facebook Live? Is it? Okay. Then that moves us to the consent calendar, the warrant register. All matters listed under the warrant register are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the warrant register for separate action. Have there been any requests to pull an item from the warrant register?
No, sir.
Colleagues? Then I'll...
Move warrant register.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Vote, please.
That motion carries unanimously.
Consent calendar. Can I just say ditto? Ditto.
Move.
Have there been any requests to remove an item from the consent calendar?
No, Your Honor.
Colleagues? I think I wanted to remove 17.
I'll move the rest.
And I'll second that.
Okay, vote, please.
That motion carries unanimously.
Item 17, there was a bid for a printing contract, and a company here in Lake Forest got outbid, and I was asked to raise the question of, in a situation like that, are we allowed by law to get back to a Lake Forest company and say, you've been outbid, could you bid lower? Or my impression was that was against the law, but I was asked, so I'm asking now.
Mayor and members of the council, you're free to award to anyone that participated in that purchasing process, no matter what their bid was, but we're not allowed to let someone revise their bid once they're all submitted. So in this case, it's not like a public works project where you have to take the lowest bid. In this case, that's just the way we conducted this procurement, but you're free to select from among those who participated.
Yeah, and they were about 8% above. In the past, I have defended the principle of 5%, that we would, if it was 5%, then a local company, I would vote in favor and give a local company the 5%. This one is, for me, at 8%. It's beyond my local preference, and then, so I just wanted to check. Councilman Robinson?
I just have a quick question. So when, under your city manager authority, you can select a vendor, do you have that ability since it's not going through an RFP process so that you can negotiate pricing based on?
Yes.
Okay. So if we expanded your authority and gave you a little bit more, because you're at $25,000, right? 30? Okay, so you were just right outside it by $4,000 here, right? So it's if we expanded that a little bit, then number one, we wouldn't have to be looking at small contracts, and number two, you'd have the ability to kind of negotiate and
Correct.
Potentially, in some ways, find a local bidder, for the lowest possible price out there. So might be something to consider in the future. But if there's no other discussion, I'll move the item the way it is right
I'll
now.
second
Staff
that.
recommendation.
And I agree with you, too, so to give her a little bit more latitude on that. So, but
Yeah.
I will second that item.
And we are going to bring the purchasing guidelines, and we're going to have a recommendation on that at your second meeting in June.
Oh, okay, good. All right, then we have a motion and a second. Let's vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
And I think it's true for all of us. We would like to keep the business here in Lake Forest. And if you're a company and you're making bids, try to make that easy for us to do.
And specifically in my district, right? I'm just kidding.
You don't even have a district. What are you talking about? 80 to 90% of what we do is citywide. The pet adoption center, it's citywide. It may be in one district, but it's a citywide. The sports park that we spend a lot of money on, it may be in one district, but it's citywide. Almost everything that we do is citywide. Occasionally, there's a funny little thing we do that's a district thing, but almost all the stuff that comes before us and almost all the voting is citywide, and I don't think if we're elected from a district that would change, that we're still, Lake Forest is still the city, and we're still voting to make Lake Forest a better place to be regardless of what district we're in. That's the end of my commercial. That brings us to discussion. No public meetings tonight, huh? Whoa. Then that brings us to discussion items. Item 19, discussion of the I-5 widening project, submitted by the Director of Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Again, I'd like to introduce Niall Barrett with OCTA to really just allow not only the community but also the council to know about the I-5 widening project, a little bit also about where we're at with a new interchange at El Toro and the I-5 also, and get us up to speed with what's going on. So I believe we have a PowerPoint presentation for you.
Welcome.
Great. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Gardner, council members. My name is Niall Barrett, Program Manager at the Orange County Transportation Authority. I'm pleased to be here during the 6th Annual National Infrastructure Week this week. So tonight I'm going to give you an update on the I-5 widening project. This is essentially between the 73, the State Route 73 and El Toro Road. And let me see, just to mention, also I'll include a brief presentation on the status of the I-5 El Toro Road interchange project as well, which is being led by Caltrans. Okay, so the project area, this just shows us essentially where the project is. It's broken into 3 different segments, beginning at the southern end down near Avery Parkway at the 73. That's segment 1. Moving north, we have segment 2. I should say segment 1 is approximately 2.2 miles long, and it includes the Avery Parkway and the Crown Valley Parkway interchanges. Segment 2 then is 2.6 miles long, and it includes Oso Parkway and La Paz Road interchanges. And then segment 3, which is towards the north end, is 1.7 miles long, and it includes the Alicia Parkway, Los Alices, and El Toro Road interchanges. So design of segment 2, which is the first segment to go out for construction, design is almost complete. It'll be complete next month in June of 2018, and it's scheduled for construction beginning in early 2019. So if you think of the delivery as 2, then 1, and then 3, so that's the method that we'll be delivering the projects. The plan is to complete all projects at approximately the same time, to open the project at the same time. So the improvements then for the project, it's to add 1 northbound and 1 southbound lane. That's a general purpose lane between Avery Parkway and Alicia Parkway. We'll also extend the existing dual high occupancy vehicle lanes, which currently today combine back into 1 HOV lane, And so we'll extend those 2 HOV lanes southerly down to Alicia Parkway. So we'll get about another 1.5 miles with the 2 HOV lanes. We'll also be reconstructing interchanges at Avery Parkway, La Paz Road, and Los Elises overcrossing, and we'll add we're adding auxiliary lanes, and we're replacing and reconstructing existing auxiliary lanes, and we'll also realign and improve and lengthen on and off ramps, and this is for the higher speeds that we now have on the freeways, and so it gives motorists a little bit more time to speed up and slow down as we get on and off the I-5. So I'll try to run through the major components of the project. Avery Parkway today has 5 lanes under the I-5, and we will be reconstructing the whole interchange to provide 10 lanes on Avery Parkway. And so we'll have a lot more left turn lanes and to get people on to the southbound and northbound on-ramps on the I-5. We're also providing bicycle lanes on both sides of Avery Parkway, as well as sidewalks. So there will be full standard shoulder widths as well. And so really you'll see a very major improvement, I think, to the Avery Parkway interchange. The La Paz Road reconstruction, this interchange will also be replaced. And what this tries to do is give you an idea of what it'll look like. This is an image, a mock-up, if you will, of what it'll be when we're finished. We will also be providing improved sidewalks, bicycle lanes, as well as 1 additional lane on La Paz Road. Today, the freeway is at a non-standard height, so we will be raising the freeway to accommodate a standard clearance on La Paz Road. Los Elises Boulevard widening. So this bridge has to be reconstructed, made longer, so that we can widen the I-5 underneath it. And so this bridge will take place in 2 phases. So if you see stage 1 here in orange, so what we do is we shift traffic from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes on the existing bridge to the north side of the bridge, and then we demolish and reconstruct the southerly half of the bridge. Then we shift traffic onto the newly constructed southerly half of the bridge, demolish and reconstruct the northerly half of the bridge, and this ensures that this bridge remains open to traffic throughout construction of both halves of the bridge throughout the project. That's just giving you an idea. I should have clicked on this one for the northern half of the bridge, and that's pretty much what it'll look like when we're done on Los Elises Boulevard. El Toro Road then, whereas this project will widen the I-5 over El Toro Road, it won't actually make improvements to El Toro Road itself, and I'll get onto that other project in a little while. But just to let you know that as we widen the I-5, we'll be rebuilding the on-ramps, the loop on-ramp and the hook on-ramp. The loop goes northbound and the hook goes southbound over El Toro Road. And so we'll constrict traffic, not in number of lanes, but just in lane width on the I-5 from 12 to 11 feet to allow the contractor space to widen the I-5 over El Toro Road. Sound walls are always a topic that the public are very interested in, and this project has 6 new sound walls along the project. I'll just focus on the one here in Lake Forest, and there's a slight realignment and reconstruction of the existing sound wall at the intersection of Bridger Road and Silver Bay Drive. So it's shown here that there's about 250 feet length of the sound wall, and it'll shift about 3 feet to the east. So there's a planter there at the moment. It's a very slight shift, but we do have to widen the northbound off-ramp onto El Toro Road, and a slight realignment. So we just need to clip the corner of that intersection, as I say, between Silver Bay and Bridger Road, to accommodate the freeway's off-ramp widening. So there won't be one thing to point out here is that although the environmental document for this project showed that there may be some partial acquisition within the city of Lake Forest for the project. What we've done is we're going to shift, the design shows that we're shifting the I-5 to the west, and so there are no full or partial acquisitions in the city of Lake Forest at this time. The retaining walls and the aesthetics then, these were worked through in conjunctions with the cities of Lake Forest, Mission Viejo, Laguna Hills, and Laguna Woods, and it's a pastoral ranch theme, as you can see along the bottom. This is in keeping with the local area that we have around here, and it's to let people know where they are without getting them too distracted. Obviously, we always want people to keep their eyes on the road and not be distracted, but it's one of the things that we try our best to include is some kind of local feel to the area, so that people, as I say, know kind of where they are without getting too carried away. The current activities then, as I mentioned, the final design, and this is just for segment 2, is almost at completion. That'll be June next month. Caltrans has been the lead agency for the right-of-way and the utility activities. There's always some right-of-way. Most of the time it's temporary construction easements, and as I said, here in the city of Lake Forest, there are no partial or full acquisition needs for the project. So we'll begin acquisition for segment 2. In fact, we are almost complete with acquisitions for segment 2. I believe we have 1 to go, and we will be able to start the right-of-way hopefully next week. And then we'll also be beginning our acquisitions for the other 2 segments. If you remember, segment 2, then 1, and then 3, later on this year and early next year as well. As I said, we are working with many utility companies to ensure their relocation or protection as needed as we widen the I-5. Again, then, just to recap the schedule, we're completing our final design, and we are planning to begin construction on segment 2 in January of next year. And you can see by the 3 the schedules there for 2, 1, and 3 that they all finish close to each other, and again, that's the hope. It's very difficult to manage 3 different contractors on 3 different construction contracts, especially of this size. And just to mention that the overall project size is approximately $600 million, somewhere between $550 and $600 million. So that'll give you an idea as to the size of the project. And so you can see the other 2 segments, 1 and then 3, when they begin, which will be late next year and then early 2020. We always have a very robust public communications and outreach program on any of our projects. This one is no exception, and so we will have, this is the beginning of our extensive outreach program that we'll have and are having. And so you can see here that there's many different things and many different ways that we have to get the word out to the public ahead of construction. We've noticed people, when they know what's going to happen coming up day to day, week to week, they tend to be able to live with it. It's a short-term thing. Construction, the worst thing you can have, and that we do not want, is that people just don't know what's happening. Of course, if there's construction noise, it's very important that people can understand why, when, and how long that will impact them, if at all, and whether that work is during the daytime, which most of it should be, but there might be certain locations and times, for example, if we're demolishing a bridge that crosses over the I-5, that we may need to close the freeway at nighttime. So we've worked with the city on our traffic management plan to ensure that the detour routes that we've laid out are workable with the city, and that everybody understands what will happen and when. It's almost like a game of hopscotch, if you will, because you have 3 different contractors potentially in 3 different areas, and we have to make sure that those contractors adhere to the traffic management plan while coordinating with each other, of course, with Caltrans, who will be leading the construction phase of the project, and with OCTA, so that we can continue to deliver sufficient and robust outreach for the program, for the project. You'll see here the next council updates will be in Mission Viejo next month, and then we'll continue on down through Laguna Niguel, Laguna Woods. We'll also have a stakeholder community outreach, and as I mentioned earlier, we will be breaking ground in early 2019. So the next project is the I-5 El Toro Road interchange, and again, this one is being led through the environmental phase by Caltrans. And this portion of the presentation is the same as the one that was given to the OCTA board on March 12th of this year by Caltrans. So really, we've just copied the important parts, I suppose you could say, from that presentation, and we'd like to give you a brief overview of that here again tonight. So you can see the project area is roughly in red. It's about half a mile north and south from El Toro Road, and it extends east and west from Paseo de Valencia on the west over to Rockfield Boulevard over on the east. We have a large purpose and need to try to achieve. At this time, we see a lot of AM and PM peak traffic congestion, not just on the I-5 itself, but also on El Toro Road and the on and off ramps that feed to and from the I-5. And this traffic is projected to grow by approximately 25% by the year 2050. So we need to get out ahead of the traffic growth and see what we can do. So we're hoping to alleviate traffic congestion on the I-5 as well as on the city streets and the on and off ramps as well. So so far, Caltrans began the environmental phase in May of last year, and they've been working on developing preliminary alternatives that they would then carry through the environmental phase. And what I'll do is I'll walk my way, your way through these alternatives. So the first one then, alternative one, is a modification to the existing intersection of Avenida de la Carlota and Paseo de Valencia. And so north is to your right here, and so you can think if you're coming southbound on the I-5 and you exit at the El Toro Road interchange, today there's traffic signals at that intersection. What this alternative would do is it would eliminate those traffic signals, and so it gets motorists very quickly down to the intersection with El Toro Road. So it speeds people along, however, it still gets them to El Toro Road, and that's largely where the problem is today of traffic along El Toro Road. One thing just to point out as well, that this alternative also realigns the on-ramp to the northbound I-5 onto Bridger Road, and it takes traffic north on that. What that does is it lines up the northbound off-ramp onto El Toro Road with the northbound on-ramp from El Toro Road. It's always a good thing to have those lined up. It also adds additional lanes onto Bridger Road, and so it gets people onto the I-5 a little sooner, and so keeping them off El Toro Road a little bit sooner as well. Alternative 2 then is a flyover, and again, if you're coming south on the I-5, what this alternative does, it provides a new structure, a new long bridge flyover that comes all the way over the I-5, and it gets people back onto Bridger Road. So what you've essentially done is you've eliminated a lot of that traffic that would have taken the off-ramp and then taken a left onto Avenida de la Carlota and to take a left onto El Toro Road. This gets people over the freeway and on into the intersection of Bridger Road and El Toro Road. Alternative 3 is what's known as a diverging diamond interchange. And we don't have any of these in Southern California. There's one under construction at the moment in Northern California, in Manteca, which is just east of the Bay Area in Northern California. You see these in other states, but not a lot of them in California. In fact, there's just one under construction. And what a diverging diamond interchange essentially does is if a car is traveling west on El Toro Road. And I'm not sure if there's a point on this, a laser. I'll try it. Nope. Okay. So just imagine, if you will, that you're traveling west on El Toro Road and you're on the side of Bridger Road. What the DDI does is it shifts traffic across to the left side of El Toro Road. And then as you cross over the freeway, it then shifts traffic. There you go. And then as you switch over and cross over Avenida del Arcolote, you switch back over to the right side of the road. What this does is it reduces, it may be counterintuitive, but it reduces the number of traffic signal phases that you need to have down to 2. And so essentially you've got cars going east or west, and that can be timed with the ramps coming on and off the I-5 freeway as well. So for about a couple of hundred yards, you'll feel like you're driving in Ireland or Great Britain, and then you're back onto the right side of El Toro Road. The environmental process then, just to give you some of the milestones, the schedule here. As I said, it began in May of 2017, and the schedule is for it to wrap up by November 2019. There will be a public information meeting next month. It's shown here as summer, but I believe it's in July, and I don't have a specific date for that, and we'll try to get that as soon as we can. So since January, well, it says here January 2018, but I should say 2019, through to March 2019, we and Caltrans and the cities have been working through the various alternatives that you saw. There's a lot of work that needs to be done as far as geometrics are concerned, traffic modeling to make sure that these alternatives work and provide the necessary relief for traffic in this area. Then after the public, well, let me see, I don't want to get ahead of myself, so there's a public circulation will begin in April 2019, and so that's not for almost a year. That's a 30-day circulation. Caltrans will hold a public hearing during that time where public comments will be sought. Everybody can come in, take a look at the project, and provide public comments. Hopefully, the more the better, I always say. We want to hear what people think about each and all of the alternatives. And then Caltrans will move towards selecting the preferred alternatives. So what Caltrans does is they read all of the comments, they provide responses to those comments, and they take those comments into consideration when selecting the preferred alternative, so that when the final environmental document is published, it will also contain, as an appendix, all of the public comments and all of the responses to those comments. So you'll be able to go back and see, and hopefully it will tell you how and why Trans got to the preferred alternative that did. At the end of my presentation, I just take this time to thank Dave Rogers, your city traffic engineer, for all of his help and support during these two projects.
Right. Thank you. Councilman Voigt, you have a question, comment?
Yeah, I feel like I just got off a roller coaster ride at Knott's Berry Farm with all the diagrams of alternate 1, 2, and 3. But I'm excited because the fact is we're all wanting progression in traffic control and mitigation. But one of the things that after so much information has gone through, basically tell us nuts and bolts, how many southbound lanes are we gaining and how many northbound lanes, and are they carpool lanes or general purpose lanes, or are they going to be HOV, are they going to be charged lanes or no charge lanes?
No charge lanes, same HOV lanes that we have today.
So 2.
Yeah, so we'll extend where we have 2 dual HOV lanes that terminate just at El Toro Road. They will be continued for about 1.5 miles down to Alicia Parkway, and then they'll combine into one. We will strive for continuous access, I didn't mention, which is one of the things that OCTA has been very active in, to make sure that people can get in and out of those carpool lanes almost wherever you want, rather than today where there's certain locations where you can get in and out. For the rest of the project going south down to the 73, we're adding general purpose lanes on the outside of the I-5.
Okay. Now, as you're going southbound, we have some like Lake Forest. I think we have a dedicated off turn. Lake Forest, is it El Toro? Lake Forest. We have a dedicated off of the 5 freeway. As you're going south, we've had backups and collisions as you get off the freeway at some of the off ramps where it backs up under the freeway, like Crown Valley. I think there's been some bad, tragic accidents. Are you guys adding off ramps, dedicated off ramps to those, or longer off ramps? I see here on our. Are you doing any of that kind of stuff going south to get off the freeway, converting them?
So, yeah, the I-5 widening project, the first one that I described, will reconstruct the ramps between El Toro Road all the way down to the 73. So what we do is we widen those ramps, we provide more lanes on the ramps, and we try to bring them, we bring them to the latest standards. So if you think Caltrans is continuously updating its roadway standards, and so that's one of the things that we'll be doing. We'll also be teeing off some of those off-ramps and on-ramps as well, so that traffic will need to come to a stop, which helps pedestrians and cyclists as they get across those intersections.
Okay, and starting at Los Alisos on the east side, on the northbound side of the 5 freeway, all along the Lake Forest border there, we have big sound walls, and so you're not going to be affecting those at all. So the building that I think it's Swan Pools is right there. Right. We're not going to be mitigating any of those properties?
We're not touching those sand walls until you get to that last 250 feet, as I said, at the intersection of Bridger Road and Sun Drive Avenue. I forget the name, but right there, there's a very small portion that we just need to push that one sand wall out about the last 250 feet of it.
So in capacity, do you have the numbers of how much capacity we're allowing to be added by the extra lanes? I mean, cars per...
It's difficult to pinpoint. Typically, you get about 1,800 cars an hour per lane in a general purpose lane. We're adding one lane in each direction throughout. So I wouldn't try to pin down. I could get back with you to tell you exactly what that number is.
And so the widening process is going to be on the eastbound side along that'd be the northbound.
It's on the north and the southbound side, so we're widening both sides of the freeway.
But you're widening the roadway on the
right. We're widening to
side.
the west, exactly.
Okay, thank you. I'm excited.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've had a question regarding the Los Alisos Bridge and specifically what the time frame was for the 2 lanes, down to 2 lanes on one side, 2 lanes on the other. I think that's going to be probably one of the bigger impacts from the I-5 widening project that we're seeing. So.
Replacement of that bridge is in stage 1 of the contract that we will have with the contractor. So it's difficult to pin down an exact date or timeline, because the contractor will provide their own schedule, critical path schedule. But phase 1 will see the demolition and reconstruction of one half and the other. Typically, these take about between 10 and 12 months to reconstruct each half. So it's fair to say that when you see that we constrict down from 4 down to 2 lanes, it'll probably take almost 2 years for that part of the project to be complete.
Thank you very much. Let's see, the other questions I had were just in regards to the El Toro Road interchange there. And if I look at all 3 options, it looks like there's going to be a northbound for sure onto the 5 freeway from Bridger Road. Is that accurate? So is that running through, like, for instance, the park right now, or the green belt along the sound wall? Is there any eminent domain that might be involved in that? Is that city property? Is that county property? Maybe if you can answer some of those questions for me.
I'd say that's probably yes to all. They started with, if you remember the exact number, probably 15 different alternatives. that we've been going through over the years and through right-of-way impacts, funding, use, traffic, all these things, they've been narrowed down to these three. I would even venture to say that there might be bits and pieces of these three that might end up in a further, final alternative. Bridger Road is a very cost-effective way to get a longer on and safer on-ramp onto the freeway. So, yes, and they haven't really gone any further than that. That's what the environmental process will do, is they narrow these down and get more information. But yeah, there will definitely be some impacts and some right-of-way impacts.
Okay, and is some of that communication already occurring with residents and commercial businesses where there's no...
In July, when we have what we call a public scoping meeting, when Caltrans lead a public meeting to just give people an overview of the project, at that time people who wish can come and ask questions of Caltrans, and so they will have experts there who can help walk people through what any potential impacts may be.
Okay, and how we typically communicate regarding like park improvements or anything related to a business, a PUC or something like that, is there like a number of feet that we do extra outreach? I'm speaking specifically to the residents and the businesses that are directly adjacent to Bridger Road. I mean, I want to make sure that every single one is highly aware of you said a July meeting? Is that? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Not only that, and, we'll try to go out further. We haven't met with Caltrans on these steps yet. We're still in the alternative stage, but we will definitely be touching every property that could be impacted, is really what the object is, and making sure that they do the proper outreach for these kind of programs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it may even get down to like having to do door-to-door communication, rather than just mailings and phone calls and things like that. So I don't know what the typical process is. I want to make sure
as we get closer. We'll bring that back to council, so council's fully aware of what's going on, especially when it comes to bringing these things out to the public. So this is the first time, really, tonight, that the public has seen any of these sorts of things. We'll probably get a few questions. Right. And this was the idea. There's no reason to get public input for 15 alternatives, most of which would never be built. Or, so now we've got some semblance of a plan. We'll get that outreach out to them.
Yeah, it's before tonight. I was familiar with the flyover option, but not some of the specifics.
There's 5 or 6 other flyovers all over, dropping down into the middle of El Toro Road. There's some crazy stuff that we looked at.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in general, I just want to let you know, I think the residents are going to really appreciate the entire I-5 widening project. If I heard correctly, about $500 million that.
Right.
For 6.5 miles. So, I wish that we weren't looking at $85 million per mile price tags or, whatever that comes out to. It's incredibly expensive to do anything in the state of California and in an urban environment like we're in, but I think it's really going to help traffic flow in a fairly significant way. Not to say we won't still have traffic problems, but, it'll make a good impact. And your communication, at least from my perspective, has been phenomenal. Every Friday I get an email about the I-5 widening and everything that's been going on in the south. Below this has been, tremendous, even though we're kind of outside of the immediate circle, and so I can only imagine what it'll be like, the communication will be like for us when it's directly impacting us. But I just want to let you know your communications team's doing a fabulous job.
Thank you.
Between 1, 2, and 3, is there one of them that's more favored than the others at the moment?
Not at this time. We're really just running a lot of the analysis, and that hasn't been determined yet, which one would serve the purpose and need the best.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's 8 o'clock, and this is usually our 10-minute necessity break time. Or we're 5 minutes ahead, so let's get back at 8:05, and we'll go ahead with the Chamber of Commerce then. Thank you. Council, if we could reconvene, thank you. Next item on our agenda is the contractual services agreement with the Lake Forest Chamber of Commerce, submitted by City Manager.
All right, good evening again, Mayor and members of the City Council. So as you know, the Lake Forest Chamber of Commerce has provided services to the Economic Development Department since 2010. The Chamber provides networking opportunities, assistance to the business community. The Chamber also supports our efforts by promoting business resources to its entire membership and supplements programs that we offer, including Shop and Dine, the new business reception, and coordinates the various ribbon cuttings you see throughout the year. The Chamber also coordinates and organizes signature events that have now become staples of our programming. Every year, staff work with the Chamber representatives to identify responsibilities that are included in the annual contract. So for this year, the Chamber proposes to continue providing logistical support to economic development and organize its signature events. Its planned activities include Meet the Mayor, Secrets to Business Success, networking mixers, social media workshops, and the job fair. In discussing the proposed contract, the Chamber presented staff with its actual costs for the events in the contract. The data reflects that the Chamber is spending approximately $3,000 more than it has in the past. The contract before you this evening is the standard $15,000 contract as reflected in the current budget. However, the Chamber is requesting consideration of an additional amount and provided written justification that we've attached in the agenda report for you this evening. If approved, the change in the contract amount would be reflected in the upcoming budget. So this concludes my brief presentation this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And we also have board representatives, Jeremy Olson, Mary Visconti, and Dave Carter here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, we have some public questions, comments?
We have one, Your Honor, yes.
Okay, why don't you stand by and let's get the public comment.
Josh?
Welcome back.
Back. I think the Chamber does a great job with event planning, but I'm on the board of the Southern California Diversity Council. So nationwide, Harvard Business Review has done case studies, also done by different groups, the Cato Institute. And what they come up with is that in business, if you have diversity and inclusion, your bottom line profit increases 15 to 30%. So while they do a great job with event planning, during the first recall, during the second recall, since they were on one side, they would harass and throw out people from the other side. So maybe 5 years from now, when things have changed, they should not arbitrarily be able to run it like a private entity since they're using public funds. So what I'm requesting is, I saw the ethics where it says you can't discriminate based on race, gender, color, and that language should also be put in this contract to make sure that there isn't any kind of discrimination or exclusion arbitrarily of any group from any event where public funds are being used.
Okay, thank you. I had a question for Carlo. They're asking for more money because they're doing more. Wouldn't that be fair to say?
Mayor and Council, I would say that that would be a fair statement. There's been an additional focus on promoting new events. Their membership has grown over the years, and certainly we've been collaborating with them pretty closely, especially since I've been the Economic Development Manager on some new initiatives and enhanced programming.
Yeah, just to have a personal comment, I think the relationship between the Chamber and the Economic Development is great, and each of you has spurred the other one to greater and greater heights. So it's been great to see the interaction with that, and I'm not surprised. they're driving me crazy with events. My wife believes I'm having an affair. Like, she says, how can you be going to so many events? Because they're having so many events. It's just incredible, and they're well attended. The last event that we just had was the Secrets and Success. I've been to maybe 6 of them in the last 10 years. That was the best one yet. And your Meet the Mayor was definitely the best one yet. It's an inside joke. No bias there. So, yeah, they certainly are doing a lot more than they did before. Do we have any other questions?
I'm just going to make my same obligatory comment that I make each time this comes up. I think for Chamber of Commerce around the country, one facet of what they provide is lobbying government agencies. And this gets a little strange in that, we're providing funding for event support. But so I just want to encourage you that, when businesses in the community feel like we're doing something that maybe isn't what the chamber, overall chamber membership wants us to do, feel free to come to that podium and criticize us. I want you to do that, and I want to hear what the business community thinks. That's who you're there to advocate for and represent. And so, never feel like your criticism there's going to be retaliation from me to not support your contract. You need to be, passionate advocates for the businesses of Lake Forest, and I want you to do that at every step. And, I know that at times, and I'm not even sure if there's language in the contract right now that precludes that, but I think at one point there was some concern that if there was an actual language. And so, I've said this each time the contracts come up. I just want you to feel free to criticize me, when you think that I'm about to, or I've made a decision that, isn't in the best interest of businesses. Sometimes I might have to do that. I hope I don't. But you should feel like you can advocate on behalf of the businesses and with no fear of retaliation from me.
Sure, go ahead, Councilman Voigt.
I'll concur that, we as city council people can get it wrong and get too strong on one side or the other, but the fact is the chamber is supposed to be representing the businesses, and as an advocate for the businesses, I think that we need to hear what the businesses are thinking, good, bad, or indifferent. If we're taking the city in a great direction, then we should be praised. But if we start going to where we're hurting the businesses with it, whether it be signages or parking in front of their businesses or that, I think that we should hear that, because you guys are the advocates, and the fact is the lifeblood of any healthy city is the business community, because as the businesses prosper, so do we as a city. So that's why whenever I'm out, I'm always waiting until I get back into Lake Forest to go eat or shop or get gas, because I want to come here. So it's about the businesses, and as they prosper, so do we. So we want to hear if we take it in error, and we can miss it. So we want to hear from you guys. So don't be shy about that or think that we're going to retaliate, because the fact is you're just keeping us honest and keeping us supporting businesses and supporting a healthy community, because a vibrant community is a healthy community and a healthy business environment. So thank you for all you guys do in the chamber, and you guys have always been great. And as much as I think that this was a great Meet the Mayor, I think last year's was a better Meet the Mayor, but this was a good one. But thank you guys so much for what you guys do, because, people don't realize that some of the cities to the north of us have paid staff, and we have all volunteer. We had all volunteer staff, Lake Forest Chamber, until just this year. Is that correct? Just this year, we just got their first paid. So you guys have been doing it all because you're volunteer and you want to make a difference. And so you guys have made a huge difference, whether it was me as mayor or Mayor Robinson or Mayor Gardner. You guys have done a omen's job in supporting the business and cheering them on. And some of the things that they do is when a new business opens or as an anniversary, you guys help bring the crowd. And one of the scariest things in life, besides for a woman or a husband or a couple to have a baby or that, is to start a new business. It's a huge investment, probably the biggest investment they'll ever make. And to be there being cheered on by a group of people and celebrating the investment they made in our city to prosper the family, but we want them to prosper the city in so doing so. So you guys, as being cheerleaders, do a great job, and so thank you.
Any more questions, comments? All right.
I'll move staff recommendation.
Okay, and which is the recommendation to add the 3?
Well, that we can't even add that right now, can we? Because we have to put that in.
Yes, you could add that, and then you could add the 3,000 to make it the 18, and then we could reflect that in the budget that comes back to you.
I will, but I think that the job for us as a city and as chamber members and economic development is to try to get the income enough to where we can have more hired staff. But the fact is that get your guys to get the business community, some more of the big business involved with us, so where that we have the ability to have that capital. So, but I will.
I'll second.
I still don't understand. Did you add it or not?
Yeah, adding the
Okay.
motion for 3,000.
Okay. There's a second. Can we vote?
That motion carries unanimously.
Okay, and on the comment on diversity, you guys are just about the most diverse group I know, quite frankly. But you have no problem putting that kind of a paragraph in there. You're already, the women and black people and brown people and Asian. You are the most diverse group of any group in the city. There's no group more diverse than them.
Yeah, and Yambo may be half the man, but he's still a black guy. So
he only counts.
But he's half a man that he used to be.
Okay, item number 21. Mayor's Award presented by Director of Management Services.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. During the March 6, 2018 City Council meeting, the City Council was discussing several updates to the council policies. At that time, Mayor Gardner proposed creating an award that would come from the City Council, recognizing an outstanding achievement by a staff member. As directed, staff came up with some suggested mechanics and guidelines of the award and is here tonight to present them. First, for someone to be nominated for the award, they must have demonstrated excellence or high achievement in one of more of the following 7 categories that you see on the slide: job performance, problem solving, innovation, outstanding act, customer service, teamwork, and community contribution. Staff proposes that the award be given out annually to one employee in the month of December. The award would be open to all employees that are in good standing and have not received the award over the prior 3 years. Staff also proposes that nominations be made by city employees and the City Council. After the nomination period closes, the city's management team would review all applications and recommend 3 to 5 finalists to the City Council's subcommittee. Staff proposes that this subcommittee be comprised of the mayor and mayor pro tem, but we're also open to other council direction on who would be on that subcommittee. The subcommittee would then select the person they feel is most deserving of the recognition. The winner of the award would be recognized at a council meeting in December and be awarded with a certificate of recognition, a small city plaque, and a $250 check. The goal would be to hold this in the first meeting in December so that it could be presented before any council changes take place. So depending on the City Council input and direction tonight, staff will revise the council recognition policy and also create an admin policy to reflect what's decided. At this point, staff is looking for direction from the City Council on the name of the award, any feedback or suggestions on the proposed criteria and process, such as who will serve on the council subcommittee, and the award itself to be presented. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Public comments?
No, Your Honor.
Facebook Live? Council?
Yes, I have some comments.
Sure, go ahead.
I actually like the title of Mayor's Award. It sounds very prestigious, and for an employee that, has earned this, I think it's a special distinction to have an award given by the mayor. So I like that a lot. I'm wondering about the subcommittee, if we can include and I don't know what the rest of the council thinks, maybe someone from the Planning Commission and someone from Parks and Recs, because they have a different perspective of how they interact with staff. We interact with specific people, and so do they, and maybe they can give a better perspective, and we can come together, kind of like the Jim Sachs Award.
Comments?
I do. I'll let them reply.
When we put this together, we wanted to limit it to 2 council members so we could avoid any Brown Act, but if you were to add others, that would not be an issue. It's really up to the council.
So, in the committee to ad hoc to do the search, to put the names in, it would be names from the employee, from staff, and from us as council members to put the names in. You'll go through an ad hoc committee, and then the ad hoc committee will narrow it down to 4, and then turn it over to the mayor and mayor pro tem?
No, the idea would be that the management team, such as the directors that are here, will review all the nominations and then bring 3 to 5 recommended finalists to the subcommittee to then review and select.
And the subcommittees other than the mayor?
Right now, we're proposing the mayor and mayor pro tem, but it's open to whatever you guys would like.
The mayor pro tem suggesting that we add the Planning Commission and the Parks Commission. She forgets the new Traffic Commission in that list. So
I didn't forget them. I just figured they'd be so new that they wouldn't really, because it would be applying for this year. They wouldn't have the experience needed for this one, but for future awards, yes, I agree.
okay. Well, it's the mayor's award. It's not the Planning Commission and the thing. So I thought if we kept it in to those 2 people, that would be better. I'm a little worried that it'd be one person, that the award goes to one person, and the reason for that is, for example, and nobody should feel badly about this, because I'm going to single out a group, but I could single out many groups. But since economic development has been before us several times tonight, how do I really distinguish between Carlo and Adrian in terms of their achievements? So that would be, and I could name others as well. So limiting it to one person would be difficult. There may be an occasion where one person clearly stands out. On the other hand, a lot of what we do is teamwork, and it's the essential people in the teams rather than one. So that's my only worry. I think we should have the flexibility to give it to.
I think that if you're getting given out an award, I think one person would be the award recipient.
You prefer one? Anybody else have feelings about one or more?
I think one, because that makes it very unique and very specific. We got seven or so categories, and I would think that you could pick one of them, come out that easily and stand out. I go for one.
I'm getting outvoted tonight. This is a bad night for me. All right. My other comment on a $250 check, I would prefer a $250 credit card to a Lake Forest business, like a restaurant, to keep the money in the city rather than just, the pure cash. Anybody other feelings on that? Or to 2 or 3 Lake Forest businesses. Everybody has to eat here, so it could be restaurants, or to their favorite restaurant, etc. Okay, I got one yes on that side. Got another yes on that. No feeling. All right, then let's make it to a Lake Forest restaurant of their choice.
Or business. There's nail salons and all sorts of other things.
Oh, okay, yeah, Lake Forest business, sure. I don't usually spend $250 on my nails, but perhaps if I won, I could. No, yeah, pet grooming, the veterinarians, yeah, there's everything. Lake Forest business, much better. All right, then with those additions of the Lake Forest business, I think that's the only change we're making, right? Okay. Do we want to move the item?
I'll move it.
Okay, all those in favor?
That motion carries unanimously.
Okay, final item for the night, ethics policy and censure policy produced by the Ethics Ad Hoc Committee, submitted by City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to make it clear that I didn't do anything, so please.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is your final item tonight. We have till 9:30, so I will speak slowly.
Don't you dare.
He gets paid by the hour, that's why he's going to speak.
At the February 6th and April 3rd council meetings, the council gave direction to establish an ethics ad hoc committee consisting of Mayor Pro Tem Basil, Council Member Cagley, and myself. And for good measure, we invited Mr. Channing to join us, and he had a great time with the Ethics Ad Hoc Committee. That direction included developing an ethics policy, incorporating a written acknowledgement and pledge to be signed by each council member and commissioners as well. Also direction to develop a censure policy and process. So the ad hoc committee met a number of times. We discussed the council's direction, if we could change the slide, for an ethics policy. Now, the council specifically mentioned the policy adopted by the city of Huntington Beach, which included or includes a written acknowledgement that is signed by each council member and appointed board and commission members. The council also gave direction, and we discussed the need for a defined policy for censure that includes objective criteria, and we'll talk about that later on as well. The ad hoc committee determined that the best approach was to draft two policies, to have a two-pronged approach. The first would be an aspirational ethics policy with an acknowledgement, like Huntington Beach's, and the second policy would be a defined objective policy for censure. So turning to the censure policy first, the intent behind this policy, in line with council direction given at the April 6th meeting, was to create a policy based on objective standards so that everybody knows exactly what could lead to potential censure, and to create a policy with a defined process for complaints, also for hearings. So the censure process or policy starts with these objective standards. A council member under this policy may only be censured after being found guilty or liable for violating any of the following: the Political Reform Act, FPPC regulations, Government Code Section 1090, which deals with contracts, specific statutes concerning political activity, specific statutes concerning the use or misuse of government resources, and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, or the FIHA. Now, that last objective criteria, what that gets at is allegations and official findings of harassment or improper behavior in the workplace here in Lake Forest. So, having outlined the objective criteria upon which a censure may be based, we turn to the process. And this is just a 30,000-foot overview of a much more refined process that you see in the policy. But the process begins, again, after a finding by either a court or an administrative entity, a neutral third party, of guilt or liability. After that has happened, anyone, a council member, a resident, any individual, may file a written request for censure. Now, that request will be filed on a form that will be available in the clerk's office, also available online. That form will be created after adoption of the censure policy, and that's typical procedure. Once a policy is adopted, then forms are created in line with council's direction. After a complaint is filed, the individual against whom the complaint is filed has the opportunity to draft a written response to the complaint, and that would also be filed with the city clerk. Once that's been filed, if it is filed, both the complaint and the request and the response are forwarded over to an independent hearing officer, which is selected by the city. Now, that hearing, that hearing officer is required to have specialized training in ethics. The most likely source of hearing officers will be local law schools, and specifically ethics instructors and professors at those law schools, Chapman, UCI, for example. The hearing officer will review the complaint and the response of the council member and will provide a written recommendation to the council within a specified time frame. The council then will receive the hearing officer's written recommendation. The clerk will notice a censure hearing, and that will be held, giving the individual against whom the censure has been filed all the necessary due process rights. The council then will decide the question of censure, and if applicable, a censure resolution will be adopted at a subsequent council meeting. So turning from the censure policy to the ethics policy, the intent behind the ethics policy was to create a shortened, high-level ethics policy to supplement the city's current ethics policy, which is found in the Lake Forest Leadership Principles, which is included in the council's packet tonight. The intent also is to create a guidance document to assist both the public and the council and commissioners in understanding the ethics standards to which we aspire here in Lake Forest, and finally, to create a policy that all council members and commissioners acknowledge. Now, one important note not on the slide. The ethics policy as drafted is not tied to the censure policy. It's not tied to the process of censure or to a complaint process. This is based on the council discussion at the April 6th meeting, where the intent and desire of the council was to have censure tied to objective standards. With that in mind, the ad hoc committee's goal was to ensure that any complaints would be based on objective and not subjective criteria. Thus, the ethics policy, which is subjective in nature, does not include a complaint process. Importantly, as we'll discuss later, the council is free to change this approach. The council is free to tie the ethics policy to the complaint process in the censure policy. So the ethics policy, the details. There are 19 individual ethics standards grouped into 4 general ethics categories, and you can see those categories on the slide that's up right now. One important note, there are some standards that repeat some of the issues that are addressed in the leadership principles. The committee's intent was to highlight the most important ethics standards and require that they be acknowledged, both initialed and signed. The leadership principles go into greater detail and act as a supplement to the ethics policy. This approach could certainly be changed by the council, but that was the intent of the ethics ad hoc committee. So every individual ethics standard will be initialed by every council member and every commissioner, board member, committee member, task force member that's appointed by the council. And the ethics policy as a whole will be signed and acknowledged by each of these members. In sum, at the risk of boring you, what's being presented by the committee is a 2-pronged approach: a censure policy with objective criteria and a detailed complaint process, an ethics policy with subjective criteria and no complaint process. The council has a number of options. The 2 central options, one would be to go with the recommendation of the ad hoc committee and move forward with the 2-pronged approach just outlined. The second would be to, for example, connect the ethics policy and the censure policy by allowing for censure based on a violation of ethics policy standards and not simply the objective standards that are outlined in the censure policy. With that, I will turn the mic over to the members of the ad hoc committee, Mayor Pro Tem Basil, Councilman Cagley, and after their comments, I am happy to answer any questions that council may have. Council members.
We met several times and exchanged information over email, and I think that the consensus between Councilman Cagley and myself was we want to make sure that the censure process is not a political ploy, and we figured if we could make it as objective as possible, it would make it so clear that there'd be no retaliation from one party to the next. There's always going to, there's a majority, every couple of years on a council. I didn't want that to be the case. I wanted it to be fair and balanced and equitable. So I felt that the censure process, the way it was done, was done exceptionally well. And having a form for a resident or a council member to fill out to file a censure process makes it very clear when they're filling it out whether or not someone is actually violating, our policies. So it takes out the subjectivity, it takes out the emotion, and it makes it a real and, valuable tool that if we need to use this, hopefully we won't have to, but if we do have to use it, at least we know that we've done our due diligence and it will be done properly. As far as the ethics policy is concerned, I like the idea, the way it's written out, and especially with the initialing on every single line, because when you're initialing, every line means you're paying extra, like when you're signing, for a house, and there are certain things you initial, you pay more attention to those things. So I felt that if we incorporated the initialing process, it would kind of make it more binding for us. I like the idea of keeping both of these items separate, because when you combine the ethics policy with a censure, to censure someone, I think it becomes more subjective. And again, I would like to take the emotion out of that process. So I'm advocating for these to be two completely separate entities. One is the censure and one is specifically for the ethics policy. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Councilman Kelly?
Well, yes, I do. First, adding to what Mayor Pro Tem said, we discussed the issue of timeliness. And we do not want this to drag on forever and ever. We have put time limits on when the response has been made after a complaint has been made. I'm talking about the censure process here now. I also like the idea that we're going to out to an independent person, not connected to the city, other than just we put them on a list to pass out for their evaluation. And that way it's not us up here doing political things or anger things or personal things. And I just wanted to add that in there, that it was... I'm only a little concerned that maybe we're not getting a broad enough opportunity for the citizens to make a complaint, because some of these things we don't really understand. They may not understand, but we do want to have a vehicle there. If it's never used, that's fine, but we have to have it there. And again, the timeliness to me is very important. I don't want to be dragging off like a congressional investigation, which goes on times.
Do we have any comments or questions, public?
Yes, Your Honor. Speaker card from Mark Murphy.
Welcome back.
Good evening. Wanted to take this opportunity to say that I read over the ethics and the process for censorship, and I think it looks good. And to that end, I think we've seen some actions here that definitely mean ethics isn't difficult. We've had an ethics policy. This might just be outlined a little bit more. But I'm kind of wondering who's really going to turn in these ethics violations, or how do they even get counted? So, for example, it's been exposed that Mayor Gardner was thinking about, ahead of time, strategizing he was going to have 2 votes, right, being against any development because of a recall effort. Who's going to police that? What about Mayor Gardner telling residents that he's really not involved with any recall efforts? That would fall under the ethics that says you have to be truthful and honest with residents, when in fact he was actually involved with that process all along, to a very great degree. What about when Gardner declared that Hamilton basically pocketed developers' money? Who's going to cover that one? Because we all know that basically, you can look at the 460s. That was money donated to an independent committee, spent on valid campaign expenditures. No proof, nothing. Just thrown right out there. He pocketed the money. That's against the ethics code, right? What about the volumes of writing disparaging fellow council members, disparaging other people here in the chambers? What about that? Who's going to call anybody on that? Because it hasn't been done. What about the basic coordination that we saw from one candidate going to an opposition committee? That's a potential FPPC violation. Who initiates that? We, the citizens? What about a delayed 460s where nobody knows for sure what's really going on with the funding until much later? So by obfuscation, nobody knows who's going to call people on that and when. So these ethics rules are good, but I think we've seen quite a bit of violations on them, and all too late, that had serious outcome differences for our city. So what's the process on ethics? How's that going to happen? I'm not sure if we should tie it to censure, but certainly there has to be something proactive. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of people coming up here pointing this out. Something should stop it immediately. Put a council member on notice. Hey, you shouldn't be doing that. You can't be writing all that. You can't be doing this activity. That's what I encourage you to do. Otherwise, we're just going to be coming up here as citizens, and we're going to be spending way too much time. So I'm interested to know how to address that issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more?
Josh Biscay?
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Now, I want to know how you're going to handle frivolous complaints like the ones we just heard. Is taxpayers' money going to be wasted when people make completely ridiculous, illogical, incoherent complaints to the Ethics Commission from similarly or exactly from what we heard from Mr. Murphy?
Okay, thank you. Just to follow up on what you said, and hopefully, Mr. Murphy, we don't continue to hear the same sad tale. In the first recall, for your information, there were meetings in the spring and summer talking about a recall. And as a result of those meetings, and I believe Tom was at some of them, other people may have been at them, I decided that it wasn't worth proceeding in a recall, and that was actually in July of that same year. Subsequent to that, because of what happened with Saddleback Ranch Road and the votes of council members Robinson, Voights, and Hamilton, this young lady to my left went out unbeknownst to me and worked with several people and developed the first recall. So the fact is actually pretty clear. I had nothing to do with the first recall, and not only that, knew nothing about the first recall until I was served the night that everybody else was served. Only my letter was a thank you for what you do for the city letter, and the three of them were served. So I did have nothing to do. Mark Murphy can come here night after night and say I was involved in the first recall, but the fact is I wasn't involved in the first recall. I was involved in a pre-recall and subsequently opted out, and I won't ask you to dignify his comments by responding because you've already talked about that in the past. As far as city council members talking to each other, Sergeant, do you have your handcuffs here with you? How many sets do you have? Just one set. That's too bad because, you know, Councilman Robinson and I talk about things on the agenda, so there's two of us that need to be handcuffed. And I'm pretty sure that Councilman Cagley, you and I have talked about things on the agenda. And I believe that I've talked with you two about things coming up on the agenda, so that the idea that council people should not talk to each other about things coming up on the agenda is absolutely absurd. In fact, we should talk to each other. What we shouldn't do is three of us talk to each other, but two of us should be talking to each other. Anyhow, I spent too much time, but it's just a follow-up of not taking up time with frivolous complaints. In any event, we left with the report and how we want to proceed. Do we have any questions from the...
We have no more public speakers, but Facebook.
Oh, okay, Facebook Live. No. Okay. Any comments from Councilman Robinson, Councilman Voights, who were not on the subcommittee?
Not entirely. I mean, I think with regard to the censure policy, the one thing I think might be missing, and we brought this up, I brought this up earlier this year, and I think there was some support for it, as I recall, was if someone was charged with a felony, and we're not saying that there would be a censure, but that there would just be the opportunity, you know, if, look, all of this stuff we hope never happens, but, you know, let's just, like, take it to its ultimate extreme. So, you know, someone is charged with murder, someone's charged with a serious hate crime, something like that. If we wait for conviction before we even censure, then, you know, the number of people that might come to that mic to tell us that we're absolutely crazy is, you know, I would expect that individual to just get heckled every single meeting. They'd probably never show up. But there's going to be some, like, gray area in a you know, felony charge that we might want to have the option to, and I just didn't see that in the list here. Regarding the ethics policy, I think what we have here is great. You know, again, it is aspirational. I did have some questions about definitions, like as an example, what constitutes a gift. So if I'm at you know, one of our city events and somebody gives me a pen, you know, then is that, a lot of people would consider that to be a gift, right? You know, and others would say it's just a pen. So I think there's some definitional issues there. Since it's aspirational, then I think it's really for each one of us to decide, you know, whether or not that's something that violates it. And, you know, what the public can do is hold us to whatever standard they have, however they're defining those things. You know, they can come to the mic, criticize us for sure. Our political opponents or adversaries can criticize us, you know, at election time for violating the ethics policy if they feel like we've done that. But, you know, I agree wholeheartedly with the ad hoc committee that, you know, it needs to be objective things. So the only thing that I would probably add is just charged with a felony. If convicted of a felony, is it every felony that a council member would be, they're automatically removed from office?
Automatically off the council.
Okay,
That's
all
correct.
right. So that's already taken care of. So that's why I've kind of thrown in the charged. And, you know, we could have an overzealous prosecutor at some point who charges someone with something with very, very circumstantial evidence. It's not saying that we would definitely censure that individual. It just gives us the ability where right now it doesn't. So it would be weird for people to come to the mic and say, this person's been charged with this horrible crime and you're doing nothing about it. And we say, well, the policy doesn't allow us to. We can change it right now, but it doesn't allow us to. Seem a little weird. So, but those are my only minor comments. I think the ad hoc committee did a great job of putting this all together, and I know you put in a fair amount of time, and I just want to let you know how much I appreciate that.
So I like the standards that, you know, we have a set of rules that we can look at and know that these are standards that we want to go by. And I think the FPPC, when you talk about gifts, whether it be a new iPhone or that, I think the FPPC violations would contain that. But there again, after being found guilty or liable, anyone may request it. So in fact, I think that it's not the investigation. I think it's the charge, and if being found guilty is when the censorship comes in, because I think that that's good. And so I want to say thank you to the ad hoc committee. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Councilwoman Cagley, for your time. Obviously, as elected officials, we are supposed to be held to a higher standards, and the ethic policy and even the censure policy, I think, will be a good reminder when we sign our names and put our signatures next to that we're supposed to be representing people like Forest and the city here and be proud of it and do a good job. So, thank you.
All right, I have a different perspective. And let me go through as quickly as I can all the problems I see with this work. And thank you for the work. In the first place, the censure policy, we're censuring people for things that are already illegal and for which they're already going to be punished. FVPC regulations, Political Reform Act, Government Code, these are already statutes that people can be punished for already. So I don't see the advantages of adding the censure to any of those things. That seems redundant to me. You could certainly have it, and I just don't see the purpose. Secondly, we have something, the leadership principles, and I don't understand, some of the leadership principles are in the ethics policy, some of them are not. Some of the good ones are not there, some of the bad. In other words, there doesn't seem to be any coordination between leadership principles, and if we're going to leave them, they overlap, so there's no point in leaving them. If we're going to substitute them, there are some good ones that were left out, so I don't understand what happened with the leadership principles. Mayor Pro Tem talked about a form. I see no form, so I don't understand where that is. In fact, I see no process whatsoever. So that seems to be lacking. As far as the ethical standards, most of which are pretty good, there is some ambiguity, but they're pretty good. I think we'd agree to all of them, but unless you tie them, and I have to agree with Mr. Murphy here, unless you're tying them to censure, what's the point in having them? It says you should do this, okay, and when you don't do this, what's going to happen? Well, nothing. So what's the point in having them if nothing's going to happen? We have them now, and nothing happens. So now you're giving us another set, and nothing's going to happen. So, I don't honestly see much in here to recommend. It's a lot of work, but I don't see a structure here that we can use, and I don't see I see a punitive process in which we're censuring people that have already been found guilty of FPC violations. That doesn't make sense to me, but we're not going to do anything about people who disregard or disobey the other 19 things. So, I just don't see anything of value here going forward.
As far as the ethics policy goes, there are a lot of things in the ethics policy that, in my opinion, would not qualify as a censure. It's mostly just behavioral things. So if we were to incorporate the ethics policy, I think turning that into a censure process would be a little bit too draconian. And the truth is I hope I never see a censure. I hope I never see a censure come before the council, because in my opinion, if you're going to be censured, you got to be doing something pretty darn bad. So that's kind of why I felt like the censure policy should be things that are where you're actually violating, laws, and if wanted to throw in, being convicted of a felony, but at the same time, if you're convicted, you're most likely not going to be on the council anymore. So that's kind of why we separated it. Censure should be something really, really severe, and the ethics policy should be something that, we need to adhere to, but to punish it with a censure, I think that would be way too severe to do. I don't know if you guys are thinking maybe we'll, have an ad hoc ethics committee, so if someone's got ethical violations, it would go through a committee and we could call it something else, but I think ethics policy should be separate from a censure policy.
I'll entertain a motion if anybody has a motion.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the ethics policy and the censure policy as written.
Well, I'll second.
We have a second.
Committee.
Okay. All right. Vote.
That motion carries with Mayor Gardner opposed.
I told you it wasn't a good night for me. Anyhow, that leads us to the city manager's report.
I have nothing further this evening.
Okay, Councilman Cagley,
I have nothing this evening, no.
Councilman Robinson.
I'm going to be fairly brief, but just some questions for the city attorney. So we've had a couple of, I think 3 members of the public come up and comment on pros and cons on the districting ballot language that we're going to have here. And so with that, you're putting something together. At that point, we could decide to include information about potentially the cost of potentially litigating if we wanted to do that. We could change around that language a little bit still. I know it's been suggested in a particular way, but we can change around the language at that meeting.
Yes, the ballot measure language will come back to the council, I believe, the first meeting in January.
June?
January. It's wishful thinking. And the council can do anything they want with that ballot language, can completely revamp the council direction and start from scratch if you so choose.
Okay, and at that meeting where we had that discussion, I kind of started bringing up the potential for either a binding or non-binding, but including information about the potential cost of litigation. So if residents wanted us to litigate it, and I know some of the information that's been provided tonight is unscientific. We all know that. Social media. You're going to get certain groups that decide to vote on something and not. But I was intrigued by the number there. I thought really when residents had some understanding of cost that they would immediately say, no, I'm not interested. I thought it would be 90% would say they weren't interested. So, I think that when we include that information, it could be of value. So, I'll probably discuss it at that point. But I just wanted to make sure that we'd have that opportunity. So, we will. So, I think the public comments that have popped up there, they'll have that opportunity to continue to comment at that June 5th meeting, and we can tweak the language or leave as is. So. Other than that, just want to say I think we've got another good meeting tonight. I appreciate my colleagues' time, and hope you all have a good evening.
Councilman Voights.
Obviously, us transitioning to a district city isn't something that I'm favorable. I'm intrigued with the opportunity to maybe put on a binding question to the people of Lake Forest in the June election. So finding out what their take would be. Would it be the June or the November? November. So we'd be transitioning till November. So it would be. I think that in retrospect, we served people of Lake Forest, and if enough of the people of Lake Forest wanted us to fight it, Mission Viejo is fighting it, Orange is fighting it, Huntington Beach is fighting it, Seal Beach is fighting it, Santa Monica is fighting it. So there are cities that have said that they don't feel, because of the demographics of the city, that they need to be forced into this. And I think that before this whole process, before we got the Shankman letter, we actually hired a demographic firm to come in and check the demographics of the city. And according to the demographic, our city does not, it was racially polarized enough to where it would need to be broken up into that. So I think that's it'll be a lively discussion when that comes back to us. So since that's coming back, I don't need to make a motion or ask for consensus because it's coming back to us. But I want to say thank you to our Lake Forest Chamber. You guys do an Omen's job, like I said. I was at the meeting, your secrets and strategies last week. You guys did a great job, brought great speakers in, and I want to thank you guys for representing the businesses. And whether we do good, bad, or indifference, if the businesses are being hurt, we need to hear about it. So please let us know, inform us. But I want to thank you guys, and I want to thank the council for tonight. And so, we had a tragic accident here in Portola Hills this last week where a construction worker was lost because of a cave-in of a trench. People don't realize that those guys that are out there in the job and in the field, I fell off a bridge overpass not far from there, Glen Ranch Road. I fell off that bridge and broke my back 22 years ago. And there's hazards out there, and people don't think about it. But make sure you tell your loved one thank you and that you love them. You know, we have people out there putting their lives on our line all the time, from the fire department or police or the construction workers that are out there, just our crews that are clean the streets. They actually are all risking their lives at times, and so be considerate to them and thank them.
I was actually going to say the same thing. That happened right behind my house.
Yep.
Yeah, to lose someone, and it was just such a tragic situation. So I'd like to close this meeting in honor of that poor gentleman who lost his life last week.
Okay, before we do that, I'll fill you in as much as I can on the homeless situation. As you know, the mayor's proposed to put a 400-bed homeless shelter in the canyons, and we brought that to the Board of Supervisors, who unanimously voted against it. And then graciously, the mayors did not put it back up, so that's not coming back on the table. At the moment, we really don't know what's on the table. We've asked the Orange County, what's he called, the CEO? The CEO from Orange County will be here talking to the city managers on Friday, trying to give us some idea of how they're going to proceed. So at the moment, there are no plans for a homeless, 400-bed homeless shelter in Lake Forest, and we hope it stays that way. And we just have no really up-to-date information to give you anything more about that. Other than that, I encourage you to show up the general plan tomorrow night. That's a way of giving the planners there some idea of the direction that you want the city to go in. And with that, I'll convene in memory of the person who lost his life. Okay. Thank you for coming.